Edward Hale never liked the smell of old metal and rotting straw, yet here he was, stepping through the dim maw of a warehouse that reeked of both. His shoes, Italian leather polished to a mirror gleam, crunched across scattered feed pellets and bits of hay. The dawn light behind him made his silhouette long and cold on the cement floor. He paused to adjust his cufflinks, as if any sliver of dignity mattered here. The caretaker followed a few paces behind. His boots dragged through the filth, each step echoing. Edward ignored him. His gaze was fixed on a rusted iron cage in the far corner. A shape shifted within its shadows, massive and silent. Edward frowned. "This wasn't part of the property report," he said softly. The caretaker grunted. "Old fighting bull, sir. Previous owner kept him for matches. Can't sell him. Nobody wants him. Dangerous." Edward didn't respond. His feet carried him forward until he stood before the bars. The bull stood perfectly still. Its body was caked with dirt and old blood. Flies orbited its open wounds like tiny planets. Its horns curved wide, tips darkened from years of blunted impacts. Its chest rose and fell so shallowly that for a moment Edward thought it might be dead. Then he saw it, a single tear tracing down the bull's broad cheek, cutting a clean path through the grime. The bull's eyes were wide and glassy, but within them was something he never expected to see: grief. Not pain, not rage, but pure grief, silent and resigned. Edward felt his throat tighten. He remembered the hospice room. His wife's breathing, ragged and whisper-thin. Her eyes glassy with morphine. She hadn't screamed or cursed or even wept. Only silent tears. Tears he had never wiped away. He had stood by the window, looking out at the winter rain, phone pressed to his ear, discussing mergers while her breaths counted down to nothing. Now a weeping bull was staring at him with the same wordless plea. "Why are you crying?" he whispered, the words scraping his dry tongue. "When you're supposed to be an animal without tears?" The caretaker shifted uncomfortably. "He's been in there 5 years. No sunlight. Fed him just enough to keep him alive. Owner wanted him mean. He gave up fighting a long time ago." Edward reached up and gripped the cage's padlock. The metal was warm from the bull's breath. The bull didn't flinch. Its nostrils flared, drawing in Edward's scent like it was memorizing him. "Open it," Edward ordered. The caretaker's eyes widened. "Sir, he'll kill you. He's a fighter. That's all he knows." Edward turned slowly, his face expressionless. "Did I ask for your opinion? Open it." Hands trembling, the caretaker fumbled with the keyring, nearly dropping it twice before finding the brass key. The lock snapped open with a metallic pop. The bull remained still. Edward pressed his palm against the bars, feeling the warmth of its breath between his fingers. He stepped back as the caretaker swung the gate wide. Hinges shrieked in protest. Dust and rust rained to the floor. The bull blinked once, its thick lashes clumping together with tears. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Even the caretaker held his breath. Edward inhaled slowly, feeling the icy warehouse air fill his lungs. He stepped forward, crossing the invisible line between freedom and fear. His shoes sank into the filthy straw. The bull towered before him, ribs showing with each shallow breath. Its hooves shifted slightly, metal shoes scraping concrete. "Sir, please, come back," the caretaker hissed. Edward ignored him. He reached out his hand. The bull's eyes followed the movement, ancient intelligence flickering deep within. Edward's fingers hovered an inch from its muzzle. The bull's whiskers twitched against his skin. Its breath smelled of blood and ammonia. "I'm sorry," Edward whispered, though he didn't know if he meant for the bull or for her. Suddenly, the bull's ears flicked back. Its massive body tensed like coiled wire. The caretaker screamed. "Sir, move." The bull lunged. Its horned head lowered, charging forward with a roar that shattered the silent dawn. Edward stumbled backward, slipping on the slick straw. The bull's front hooves pounded the cement, spraying dirt and blood into the air. Its horns aimed directly at Edward's chest. The caretaker fell against the gate, eyes wide with horror. Edward's heart thudded so hard he tasted blood. The bull's eyes locked onto his, fury and grief blazing like twin suns. Edward tried to move, but his legs refused. Time slowed. The bull's body became an avalanche, unstoppable. Its hot breath blasted against his face as it closed the final inches. Then, at the last moment, it stopped. The bull's chest heaved against Edward's knees. Its massive head lowered, horns brushing the cement on either side of his shoes. Its entire body trembled, not from rage, but from surrender. A sob erupted from deep within its throat, a sound so human that Edward's vision blurred. The bull pressed its forehead against Edward's chest and wept. Edward stood frozen, his arms dangling at his sides. Tears soaked through his shirt, burning his skin like acid. The bull's sobs came in ragged gasps. Each one racked its broken frame. Edward could feel every tremor against his ribs. The caretaker's mouth moved silently. Finally he croaked, What is it doing?" Edward placed a shaking hand on the bull's broad neck. The skin was rough, crusted with old scars. Beneath it, he felt the thunder of its failing heart. "It's grieving," Edward whispered. "It's dying." The bull shifted, sinking lower until its knees buckled and crashed to the cement. Dust and flies erupted into the air. Its entire weight leaned into Edward, forcing him to stagger backward. He dug his heels into the straw, bracing himself. "Help me," he barked. The caretaker scrambled forward. Together they tried to ease the bull down, but its bulk was too great. Its eyes rolled back, froth bubbling at the corners of its mouth. Edward bent low, pressing his forehead against its horn. The metal burned against his skin. He smelled blood, rust, and something older, despair, ancient and fathomless. "I won't let you die here," he growled. His voice cracked. "Not here. Not like this." The bull's eyelids fluttered. Its chest rose in a shallow, rattling breath. Tears fell from its eyes, pooling in the filthy straw. Its body slumped further. Edward felt its pulse weakening under his palm. The caretaker whispered, "Sir, there's nothing you can do. He's gone." Edward shook his head violently. "No. Call a vet. Get a crane truck. We're getting him out of here." The caretaker hesitated. "But—" "Do it," Edward roared. The man scrambled away, fumbling for his phone. Edward stroked the bull's muzzle, wiping away its tears with his trembling thumb. The bull's breathing rasped, each inhale sounding wetter, closer to the end. Edward pressed his lips against its forehead. The smell was unbearable, but he didn't care. "You're free now," he whispered against its hide. "Do you hear me? You're free." The bull's ears flicked once. Its eye rolled toward Edward's voice. In that endless dark pupil, Edward saw himself, a gray man in a black suit, cradling the head of a dying bull in a forgotten warehouse at dawn. The bull exhaled a long, rattling breath. Its massive frame convulsed once, then went still. Edward closed his eyes. In the silence, the only sound was the caretaker's voice, cracking with fear and disbelief as he spoke into his phone. "Yes, sir. We need emergency livestock transport. The bull, he's not dead, but he's close." Edward opened his eyes. The bull's chest still moved, barely. Its tears mixed with blood in the straw. Edward tightened his grip around its horn. He didn't know why this mattered. Why saving this broken creature felt like saving himself. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Only the heaving chest under his hands. Only the flickering spark in eyes that had already seen too much. The bull shuddered again. Its head slipped from Edward's lap and thudded onto the straw. For a single terrible heartbeat, Edward thought the final breath had come. Then the bull's nostrils flared weakly. Edward sucked in a trembling gasp, clutching its horn tighter. "Hold on," he whispered. "Just hold on." The caretaker returned, voice shaking. "They're sending a truck. It'll be here in 15 minutes. Edward nodded, unable to tear his gaze from the bull's flickering eyelids. Outside, dawn fully broke, flooding the warehouse with thin gold light. Dust motes danced around them like tiny ghosts. The bull's eyes blinked once, twice. Its breath came in shallow gasps. Edward pressed his palm over its heart, feeling its thunder slow to a fading drumbeat. Tears rolled down his cheeks, splashing onto its hide. "Please," he whispered. "Please don't go." The bull's ears twitched at the sound. Its chest rose, fell, rose again. Then it let out a low, rumbling moan, so deep and ancient it seemed to rise from the earth itself. The sound vibrated through Edward's bones. The bull's head lifted an inch, nostrils flaring as if sniffing freedom for the first time. Then it collapsed back into the straw, still breathing, but only just. And in that moment, Edward knew nothing in his empire, nothing in his vaults of gold or towers of glass, mattered more than keeping this creature alive. He tightened his grip around its horn as the distant sound of an engine echoed through the dawn, drawing closer. Edward stood rooted in the straw as the warehouse door rattled open. Bright morning light cut through the darkness, slicing across the bull's still form. Men in navy coveralls entered, carrying ropes, metal bars, and padded chains. A crane truck rumbled outside, its diesel growl echoing through the corrugated walls. Dust rose around Edward's knees as he knelt by the bull's head. Its eyes flickered open, unfocused and clouded with pain. "He's in critical condition," the veterinarian said, crouching beside Edward. Her gloved hands hovered above the bull's ribs, feeling for broken bones and torn ligaments. She smelled of antiseptic and hay, her hair tied back in a severe knot. "He might not survive transport." "He has to," Edward said quietly. His voice barely carried over the clang of chains as workers began rigging a sling under the bull's torso. "I didn't set him free just to watch him die in another cage." The vet glanced at him. Her eyes softened. "I'll do everything I can." Edward nodded once. He focused on the bull's breath, shallow, wheezing, rattling against the rising sun. He pressed his palm flat against its horn. Its warmth seeped into his skin, anchoring him there in the straw. Time dissolved. Board meetings, digital clocks, and merger calls evaporated into dust motes swirling around him. All that mattered was this creature's heaving chest. "Ready!" a worker shouted. The crane roared to life. Chains tightened with metallic creaks. The bull's body lurched an inch off the ground. Its eyelids snapped open, pupils wide with terror. A low moan rumbled from its chest, vibrating through Edward's bones. "It's okay," Edward murmured, gripping its horn tighter. "You're okay. I'm here." The bull's eyes flicked toward him. For a brief, breathtaking moment, there was recognition in them, not of a man, but of something deeper. A silent prayer in the darkness, answered by another silent prayer. The sling lifted higher, revealing its gaunt ribs, the scars crossing its flanks like jagged rivers. Blood trickled from reopened wounds as the metal frame swayed. Workers steadied it with poles. One man cursed as the bull's hoof swung too close to his knee. Edward watched each movement, his stomach twisted in cold knots. They rolled a flatbed trailer under the suspended bull. Its hooves dangled inches above the dented steel. When the crane lowered it down, the bull collapsed onto its side with a groan. The vet climbed onto the trailer, injecting clear fluid into its neck. The bull shuddered but didn't resist. "He's sedated," she said. "We have to go. Now." Edward turned to the caretaker, who hovered near the gate with sweat dripping down his temples. "He stays here. Clean this place. Burn the cage." The caretaker's eyes widened. "Burn it. Every bolt. Every bar. Burn it." He didn't wait for a reply. He climbed into his Bentley, trailing the trailer as it rumbled into the rising sun. The city skyline loomed ahead, towers of glass and steel that once felt powerful to him. Now they looked like meaningless monuments to an empty empire. Traffic parted around them. Motorcyclists slowed, staring at the sedated bull strapped to the flatbed, ropes crisscrossing its massive chest. Edward imagined what they saw, a mad billionaire transporting a dying beast through morning rush hour. He didn't care. At the veterinary hospital gates, reporters waited, drawn by scanner chatter. Flashes lit Edward's eyes as he stepped out. Questions flew like darts. Mr. Hale, why are you saving a bull? Is this an animal rights PR campaign? Are you donating your farm to a sanctuary? Edward ignored them. His gaze locked on the bull as it was unloaded, its head lolling against the metal railings. Its nostrils flared with each labored breath. Blood oozed from its shoulder where the rope had chafed. Inside, the hospital smelled of iodine, hay, and quiet desperation. Veterinarians and assistants swarmed the bull, inserting 4 lines, draping warm blankets over its back. Edward stood in the corner, his suit smeared with blood and straw. No one asked him to leave. They moved around him like he was part of the equipment, an immovable pillar rooted in grief. Hours blurred into silent minutes. Machines beeped. Fluids dripped. The bull's chest rose and fell, each inhale sounding wetter, closer to surrender. Edward barely noticed the vet approaching until she placed a hand on his shoulder. "He has extensive internal damage," she said softly. "His organs are failing. We can keep him stable for now, but his spirit, he's given up." Edward's vision blurred. The vet's face melted into the white walls. In his mind, he saw his wife again, her thin fingers curled around his wedding band as the monitor beeped slower. Slower, then silence. He hadn't held her hand. He hadn't said goodbye. He was too busy signing a billion-dollar merger. Now he stood beside another dying creature, and this time he wasn't leaving. "I want to take him out of here," he said hoarsely. The vet frowned. "He can't be moved again, Mr. Hale. Not far. Just outside. Into the sun." She hesitated. "That might kill him." Edward's voice cracked. "Or it might give him a reason to live." Minutes later, 4 men lifted the bull's frame onto a wide stretcher. Its breathing rattled louder as it felt open air against its skin. Edward walked beside them, one hand resting on its horn. Outside, sunlight poured across the hospital yard. Birds chirped in the mango trees. The breeze carried scents of grass and dust and warm earth. The men set the stretcher down on a patch of damp grass. The bull's nostrils flared. Its eyes fluttered open, pupils contracting against the light. A fly landed on its eyelashes. It didn't even flick it away. Edward knelt beside its head, ignoring the dampness soaking his trousers. He placed his palm against its muzzle. Warmth radiated up his arm, flooding into his chest. The bull's whiskers twitched under his skin. For a moment, it looked at him, really looked at him, as though seeing not the billionaire or the man in the suit, but simply another creature, alone and afraid. "You're free now," Edward whispered. Tears burned his eyes. "Don't leave. Please." The bull's chest heaved. A low, guttural moan rumbled from deep within. Its forelegs twitched, trying to shift under its massive weight. The vet crouched behind Edward, eyes wide. "He's trying to stand," she breathed. Edward slid his hands under its horn and cheek, lifting gently. The bull's head rose an inch, trembling violently. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air. For one heart-stopping moment, it lifted its chin toward the sun. Golden light caught in the tears streaming down its face. Its ears flicked forward. Its nostrils flared again, drawing in deep, ragged breaths of fresh morning breeze. Edward felt the vibration through its horn, the low, rumbling hum of life refusing to surrender. A sound older than kings, older than iron cages, older than grief itself. Then the bull's front legs collapsed. Its head thudded back onto Edward's lap. Its eyes rolled back. Its chest convulsed once, twice. Blood trickled from its nostrils, soaking Edward's trousers. The vet lunged forward, pressing her stethoscope against its ribs. Her fingers moved rapidly across its chest. Edward couldn't hear her words over the roaring in his ears. The bull's breaths came faster, rasping like a saw through wet wood. Its eyelids fluttered open. Its gaze found Edward's face. And for the briefest of heartbeats, its eyes cleared. Gone was the clouded film of pain. What looked out at Edward was something vast and infinite. Gratitude, sorrow, forgiveness. Tears blurred Edward's vision as he gripped its horn tighter. "I'm here," he whispered brokenly. "I'm here." The bull exhaled a long, rattling sigh. Its entire frame went slack against the stretcher. The vet pressed her ear to its chest. Her face crumpled. "No pulse," she said softly. Edward bent low, pressing his forehead against its horn. Hot tears slipped from his eyes, soaking into its blood-streaked hide. "Please," he whispered. "Don't go." Suddenly, the bull's chest spasmed. Its body convulsed violently. Its eyes snapped open. A sound erupted from its throat, a deep, thunderous roar that shook the mango leaves overhead and sent birds screaming into the sky. Its front legs slammed against the stretcher, snapping the metal frame. With a colossal heave, the bull rose onto its knees, nostrils flaring, chest heaving with ragged, defiant breaths. The vet stumbled backward, gasping. Workers froze in place, eyes wide with terror and awe. Edward fell back onto the grass, staring up at the creature looming above him. Blood dripped from its mouth onto his face, hot and wet. Sunlight poured across its massive horns, making them glow like molten gold. The bull threw back its head and roared again, louder, deeper, shaking the earth beneath them. In that roar was everything Edward had never understood: pain, fury, grief, hope, and the unbreakable will to live. The bull's gaze fell upon him, dark eyes blazing with a fire that no cage could ever extinguish. Edward's heart thundered against his ribs as the bull lurched forward, planting one hoof onto the grass. Its chest heaved. Its head lowered toward him. Flies scattered from its wounds as it stepped closer. For a single breathless moment, Edward thought it might kill him. Then the bull bent its massive neck and pressed its forehead against his chest. Edward stood frozen as the bull pressed its forehead against his chest. Its massive body trembled with exhaustion, heat radiating through his blood-soaked shirt. Flies buzzed around its open wounds, but it didn't flinch. Its nostrils flared, pulling in Edward's scent as if anchoring itself to this single human amidst the blur of pain and panic. Behind them, the vet remained crouched in stunned silence, stethoscope dangling forgotten at her side. The bull exhaled a long, ragged breath that fluttered Edward's collar. Its chest heaved, muscles rippling beneath torn skin. Blood dripped from its nostrils onto the grass, darkening the earth. Edward's knees shook, but he didn't step back. He placed his hand against the bull's cheek, feeling each labored pulse of life thrumming beneath its rough hide. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're okay." The bull's ears twitched at the sound of his voice. Its tail flicked once, then fell still. The vet inched closer, her face pale with awe. He shouldn't be standing," she breathed. "His organs were failing an hour ago." Edward didn't answer. He was lost in the bull's gaze, dark eyes reflecting the rising sun, filled with something ancient and unspoken. Gratitude, resignation, an unbreakable will to stand, even on shattered legs. The bull's hooves shifted in the damp grass. Its front legs shook violently. Its massive body leaned into Edward's chest, nearly toppling him backward. He dug his heels into the soil, bracing under its weight. The bull's breath rattled louder, each exhale bubbling through blood and mucus. Its ribs expanded with a sudden, desperate inhale. Then it collapsed. The bull's knees buckled, folding beneath its body like rotted timber. Its massive head dropped onto Edward's shoulder, nearly knocking him to the ground. He clutched its horn with both hands, feeling its heat searing into his skin. The vet lunged forward, stethoscope pressed to its chest. Her brow furrowed in concentration. "Heartbeat is weak," she murmured. "But it's there." Edward exhaled shakily. The bull's eyelids flickered. Its pupils were glassy, unfocused, but they turned toward him. He stroked the torn edge of its ear, brushing away blood and flies. Its hide smelled of iron and ammonia, but he didn't flinch. He felt her again, his wife, lying in that sterile white bed, her skin gray and waxen. He'd stood by the window that day, staring out at rain-slick streets, while her chest rose and fell for the last time. Now another dying creature rested against him, and he would not look away. Not again. "We need to get him inside," the vet said softly. "He can't stay out here." Edward shook his head. "He wants the sun." It could kill him. Edward looked up at her. Then let him die in the light. The vet hesitated, then nodded once. She turned to her assistants, gesturing for blankets and 4 bags. They moved around the bull, draping heated fabric across his back, securing intravenous lines to keep fluids dripping into his veins. Edward never let go of his horn. Each rise and fall of the bull's chest felt weaker than the last. An hour passed. The sun rose higher, casting gold across the courtyard. Birds landed in the mango trees above, chirping softly. Edward listened to their songs, counting each pause between the bull's breaths. The vet checked his vitals repeatedly, her movements silent and precise. "He's stabilizing," she whispered. "Just barely." Edward's shoulders slumped. Relief flooded him, leaving him weak. The bull shifted, pressing its massive head harder against his chest. Its breath came in slow, heavy gusts, each exhale warming his ribs. He closed his eyes, resting his forehead against its horn. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm not leaving." The bull's ear twitched against his wrist. Its chest rose again, deeper this time. Edward exhaled shakily, the tension in his spine loosening for the first time since dawn. He opened his eyes to see a little girl standing a few feet away, clutching a small bundle of wildflowers. Her hair was tied back with a pink ribbon. Dirt smeared her cheeks. She wore a hospital wristband around her thin arm. She stepped closer, her sandals silent in the grass. "Is he your friend?" she asked softly. Edward blinked at her, words trapped in his throat. He swallowed hard. "Yes," he croaked. "He is." The girl smiled. She knelt beside the bull, placing the flowers gently between its hooves. The petals trembled in the breeze. The bull's nostrils flared, breathing in the sweet scent. Its eyelids fluttered. A single tear slipped from the corner of its eye, darkening the grass. "He's sad," the girl whispered. Edward felt his chest clench. "He's been caged his whole life." The girl reached out, brushing her tiny fingers against the bull's cheek. "But he's free now." Edward closed his eyes as tears burned hot down his face. The bull shifted again, its flank pressing harder into his thigh. Its breaths came slower now, deeper, no longer the shallow gasps of panic but the heavy exhales of surrender. The vet stood silently nearby, watching the girl stroke its fur with infinite gentleness. Minutes passed. The bull's chest continued to rise and fall, each inhale rattling through its wounded lungs. Edward never moved. He felt the sun warm his back, felt the bull's horn burn against his palm. The girl hummed a quiet tune under her breath, a simple melody that floated across the courtyard like birdsong. Slowly, the bull's breathing steadied. Its eyelids lifted, pupils narrowing against the light. Its massive head shifted, resting fully in Edward's lap. He stroked its muzzle with trembling fingers. Blood stained his shirt, soaking into his skin, but he didn't care. The girl stood, brushing dirt from her knees. She smiled at Edward, her eyes luminous. "He likes you." Edward swallowed hard. "I like him too." She skipped away, disappearing into the hospital's shadowed halls. Edward watched her go, chest aching. The vet stepped forward, crouching beside him. "He'll survive the day," she whispered. "But he needs long-term rehabilitation. Open space, clean grass, careful feeding." Edward didn't hesitate. "I'll buy whatever he needs." Her brows lifted. "That could cost millions." Edward's gaze remained on the bull's eyes. "Then it will be the best money I've ever spent." The vet smiled softly. She rose, calling her team to prepare for internal treatments. Edward remained kneeling, his legs numb, his heart thundering with silent resolve. The bull's breathing deepened, vibrating through his thighs. Its nostrils flared, pulling in the scent of sun-warmed grass. For the first time, its ear flicked toward the chirping birds overhead. Edward felt something shift deep in his chest, a crack opening wide. Grief poured out, raw and burning, but within it was relief, the relief of finally choosing to hold on instead of letting go. Hours later, as twilight bled across the courtyard, Workers arrived with a hydraulic trailer designed for large livestock transport. They built padded railings and spread hay across its steel bed. The vet approached Edward with gentle urgency. "He needs to move to a rehabilitation facility," she said. "There's a ranch 3 hours from here. They have the fields and staff to care for him." Edward nodded. "Arrange it." She hesitated. "They'll require an upfront payment." Edward finally tore his eyes from the bulls. "Send me the account number." Teams of men worked under the descending dusk. The bull groaned softly as they lifted it onto the padded trailer. Edward climbed up beside him, ignoring their protests. He knelt in the straw, placing his palm against the bull's horn. Its eyes turned toward him, heavy and glassy but no longer clouded with terror. The engine roared to life. The trailer rolled forward, rattling over gravel roads. Edward remained kneeling beside the bull, watching moonlight flicker through passing trees. The bull shifted its massive head, pressing its forehead against his chest once more. Tears burned Edward's eyes. He stroked its cheek with shaking fingers. The road wound on into the dark hills, carrying them both away from cages, away from the silence of forgotten warehouses. And for the first time in years, Edward felt hope bloom within his chest, fragile, flickering, but alive. Hot down his cheeks. The bull turned its eyes back to him. Its gaze was clear, unclouded by pain or fear. Within it glimmered something older than language, a silent promise of life that could never be caged. The bull lowered its massive head, pressing its forehead gently against Edward's chest. Its breath rumbled through his body like an ancient drum. Edward closed his eyes, resting his palm against its torn ear. "You're free," he whispered. "Live. Just live." The bull's ears flicked. It stepped back, shaking its horns once. Then it turned and walked away, each stride stronger than the last. Edward watched as it moved across the pasture, steam rising from its back into the rising sun. Birds circled overhead, their calls ringing through the pale morning. Behind him, the ranch manager approached. His boots crunched frost-coated grass. "He'll need months of treatment. Years, maybe, to fully recover." Edward nodded, unable to tear his eyes from the bull. "Give him everything." "It'll cost a fortune," the manager said gently. Edward exhaled. The sun rose higher, warm against his tear-damp face. "Then let it." The manager paused. "Forgive me, sir, but why this bull? You're a man with empires. Why save him?" Edward didn't answer for a long moment. The bull reached the far fence, nose pressed against the wooden rails as it gazed out at the endless hills beyond. Its tail flicked slowly, rhythmically, like a silent metronome counting the seconds of its new life. Finally, Edward spoke. "Because I couldn't save her." The manager lowered his gaze. Understanding flickered across his lined face. He nodded once, then walked back toward the barns. Edward remained standing in the wet grass. Wind rustled his coat, carrying the scent of hay and eucalyptus. The bull turned its head again, nostrils flaring as it drank in the dawn air. Its dark eyes found Edward's across the distance. A quiet moment stretched between them, man and beast, broken and healing, bound by silent grief and the wild hope of redemption. Hours passed. Ranch workers led Edward to the small guest cabin near the pastures. He showered, scrubbing blood and straw from his skin, then dressed in rough denim and a thick wool sweater. He stood before the cracked mirror, tracing the hollows beneath his eyes, the lines etched by years of empire building and silent regret. Outside, the sun climbed high. He walked back to the pasture, boots crunching along gravel paths. The bull grazed near the willow grove now, tearing mouthfuls of grass with slow, deliberate bites. Birds perched along its scarred back, pecking at insects clinging to its hide. The breeze carried their calls, weaving them into the hum of the waking ranch. Edward approached slowly. The bull lifted its head. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Then the bull stepped forward. Its hooves crushed wildflowers underfoot, releasing sharp bursts of scent into the warm air. Edward reached out his hand. The bull lowered its massive head, pressing its muzzle into his palm. Its breath rolled across his fingers, hot and damp. Tears welled in Edward's eyes, but this time he didn't blink them away. He let them spill down his cheeks, dripping onto the bull's hide. The bull didn't flinch. It simply stood there, silent and immovable, a living monument to survival. The little girl appeared again. She held fresh flowers, daisies and wild marigolds tied with a frayed pink ribbon. She walked up beside Edward, her sandals brushing against his boots. "He's happy now," she whispered. Edward nodded, his throat tight. "Yes, he is." She reached up, slipping the flowers into his hand. He took them wordlessly. The bull's eyes followed the movement. Slowly, Edward lifted the flowers toward its muzzle. The bull sniffed them, its nostrils flaring. Then, with infinite gentleness, it nudged one flower back toward him. Edward felt something break open inside his chest, a dam of grief shattering, releasing a flood of sorrow and hope. He bent low, pressing his forehead against the bull's horn. Its warmth burned against his skin, branding him with silent forgiveness. The girl smiled. Her voice was soft as morning breeze. "He's saying thank you." Edward closed his eyes. Tears slipped onto the bull's horn, glistening in the golden light. The bull stepped closer, pressing its massive forehead against his chest. Its breath rolled through him, filling the hollow spaces where guilt and silence once lived. He wrapped his arms around its neck, feeling the coarse fur scratch his cheek. Its heartbeat pulsed against his ribs, strong, steady, alive. And in that moment, Edward knew he was no longer saving the bull. The bull was saving him. The wind rustled the willow branches overhead. Sunlight fell in broken shards across their bodies. The bull lifted its head, nostrils flaring, tasting the sky. Its ears flicked forward, listening to something only it could hear, a silent call of freedom echoing across the hills. Edward stepped back. The bull turned away, walking into the golden morning. Each stride was slow but sure, hooves sinking into rich black soil. Its tail flicked lazily. Birds followed it, weaving around its horns like living ribbons. Edward watched until it disappeared beyond the rise. Tears blurred the sunrise into molten gold. His chest ached, but for the first time in years, it was a good ache. The ache of something healing, something awakening. He turned toward the cabin. The little girl skipped at his side, humming her quiet song. Behind them, the pasture glowed with early light, the grass sparkling with dew. And as he walked away, Edward whispered to the silent dawn. In the end, it wasn't gold, power, or glass towers that saved him, but a weeping bull who taught him that freedom is the quiet gift of simply being seen. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful true tales like this one.